crackle, pop.
Crack, snapple, pop.
No, snap, crackle, pop.
Crack, snapple, pop.
Snapple. Snapple's not a... Well, Snapple's a bit... That's a name. Hey everybody, welcome to Seriously Lighthearted Yoga. Today we're going to be talking about hips. These guys right here, the hip zone, hippage.
Yeah.
And talk kind of all about it, telling you the various things that you need to know, and you don't have to look at our lovely faces today. I'm just hoping that you feel that they're lovely. It's kind of an assumption on my part, but
a little presumptuous of you.
We'll just
Alrighty, guys. So the hips have a few different movements that they can accomplish very easily. But for starters, it's a ball and socket joint. What does that mean? That means on the end of your big leg bone right here, the femur, there's a little ball. And it just smashes up into your hips into the socket. So that allows for a few different movements. The hips generally have a forward and back movement that we all know fairly well from, say, walking. And then there is kind of an in and out movement that we all might know from jumping jacks. And then there's kind of a rotation that we can kind of get in here too. Like if you think of bringing your knee up and bending it a little bit and just pulling it out, like that's the sort of rotation here that we're getting at. And that, I don't really have a good place where you might see that. The thigh master. So anyways, those 6 movements, and then your hips can also just kind of rotate willy-nilly around that ball and socket joint. But I encourage you guys to think of your hips in yoga as kind of separate entities. So you have a left and a right hip. They can, to some extent, move individually. And when you are controlling either the left or the right, they are kind of the conduit of the energy coming from your torso down into your legs and vice versa. So it's that the hip is that linchpin between your torso and your legs. And it carries a lot of our weight. We put a lot of our weight in our hips all the time when we stand. This is a very, very important part of our body. But what am I trying to say? So from here, the hips also are kind of integral in every yoga posture. So having a good idea of how they move in your own body is really important. So I would take some time, play with your hips, just move them out however you want and see what happens. It is actually kind of fun after a while for you to learn how your hips move and learn that you can move one a little bit more than the other, and that's really most of what I want to get at, guys.
Yeah, and so when we were talking about the energy flow through your spine and those kinds of things, we talked about the energy being stored in your hip area, and that's because, like I was saying, it's very much the kind of the joining point between your legs and really the rest of your body. There's a bunch of energy that's stored there, but they are 2 kind of separate entities. Yes, I know in anatomy
they're fused.
They share one kind of hip bone, pelvic bone, that's all like one unit, but they are very much separate and opposite of each other. So keep that in mind. Play around with your hips. Do all sorts of hip things.
We'll get into some postures that use them.
Yeah, and remember that every posture kind of,
in a sense, kind of starts from the hips.
Yeah,
you can
and
think of the hips as the starting point for most postures.
Yeah, so being aware of what your hips are doing in the posture is important, regardless of what posture you're doing. And so, yeah, have some fun with that. Give somebody a high five. Subscribe, like, and share. We'll see you guys and your hips tomorrow.
We don't actually see you guys.